What's up, YouTube? Back with another video. I wanted to touch on something that has come up a lot in the comments about gambling. So, personally myself, despite what some may believe, I'm not big on gambling. I don't go to the casinos much. Yes, in that first video, I was at a casino, in a hotel room at a casino, but I was not there to gamble. I was there for a work convention that we just so happened to be staying at the Caesars Palace for the convention. And as far as, gambling in the casino went, I took $100 and played some blackjack. Typically, if I do go to the casino, I'm gonna play with about $200, maybe $300, and if I lose that money, that's it. But to me, gambling and a casino is really just, you're just paying for entertainment. If you take $100, $200 and you spend 4 or 5 hours at a casino playing blackjack, maybe you win, maybe you lose it all. Say you lose it all, and you had some free drinks, had fun with your friends, to me, that's the cost of entertainment. So, there's been a lot of comments talking about that it's clearly I have a gambling problem. So what I wanted to talk about here was, the difference between trading, investing, and gambling. Because to be frank, while I don't consider myself a gambler, what I did on the night that I took that trade where I lost that money was gambling. I didn't see it that way at the time. And frankly, I really didn't even see it that way until recently, and I kept seeing all these comments repeatedly saying I'm a degenerate gambler and this and that, which, I really don't care what people say on the internet. But it did make me think back on that trade that, well, I didn't do enough research prior to taking the trade. I went too big on that trade. I broke my rules on that trade. And between those three things, it did turn into a gamble rather than a trade. Frankly, another issue is I had been drinking, because I was at the casino. I was having a good time at the convention after we were done with the work things. I did go have drinks with some of my coworkers and dealers that I work with, and did a little bit of playing blackjack, which, I played with $100. I lost 35, so I still had that $65 worth of chips left. But I wasn't in my right frame of mind to take the massive trade that I did take, that ultimately resulted in me losing all of it. And frankly, that is what turns a trade into a gamble. When you're breaking your risk reward rules. Honestly, the best risk reward that you can be looking for, because you're not going to win 100% of trades. But if you look at it like this, where if you're going to risk $100 to make $200, so say you take a trade valued at $1,000 and you set your stop loss to get out at a $900 loss or so, you should be aiming for a win of about $200, okay? So a 2-to-1 risk reward. So if you have a 2-to-1 risk reward and you're right 50% of the time, that means that, 5 times you lost $100 and out of 10, and 5 times you made $200. The difference there is you made $500 even though you were only right 50% of the time. So at that, if you can increase your accuracy even higher and you keep that same 2-to-1 risk reward ratio, then your profitability just continues to climb. But back onto the topic, trading versus gambling. Yeah, what I did do that night, when I didn't jump out of the trade, as soon as it did not work out in my favor, it then became a gamble, because at that point I was no longer looking for my exit or planning my risk and reward. I was more shaken by how much that I was down, and how fast I lost it, that I wasn't prepared, to think about getting out at that point. I was only focused on basically praying that it went back into my favor and that my trade came to fruition, and hit my sell target of $7.49. So, I'm not out here trying to give you guys financial advice. I'm not trying to tell you what trades to take. I'm not trying to tell you what coins to buy. What I will tell you, though, as a piece of advice, is if you are going to be day trading, swing trading, crypto trading, stock trading, whatever it is that you plan on doing, unless it's investing, which if you don't know the difference between investing and trading, I suggest you go watch one of my previous videos that explains the difference between trading and investing. But if you plan on trading, you need to very well make sure that you have a solid risk reward ratio set. And before you enter your trade, you pick a very diligent entry point and exit point, as well as stop out point. And while I'll reiterate that, yes, I don't typically use a stop loss in crypto, there are times when I will. If there is a lot of volume going on a certain coin, for example, when it first launches, or if there is a ton of attention on it and it's trading in a massive range, or a pretty tight range with a massive amount of volume, at those points I will use a stop loss, because I know that my stop loss is not just going to get triggered randomly one day because someone came in with a large amount of shares to trigger stop losses to gobble everything back up after everyone's stop loss got triggered. So when there's high volume and high liquidity, then I will use stop losses. But if there's low liquidity and low volume, stop losses are dangerous. So anyways, back to what I was talking about. So yeah, if you're planning on trading and you've set your risk reward, you've set your entry and exits, you've done your research ahead of time of the asset that you're about to trade, you know why it's going up or going down, depending on if you're playing the long or the short side. Make sure you don't fall into the trap of letting it turn into a gamble. And a lot of times what that means is taking your loss quick, and sometimes just having to accept that you didn't win this one. Most people who lose a large amount of money in a trade, myself included, clearly, is because they held it too long. They got too emotionally invested in the amount of money that they were using. They got too emotionally invested and couldn't accept taking the amount of loss that they were seeing. And then you fall into that trap of like, okay, well, I am going to take my loss, but now I'm going to sit and wait and try to find the better loss to take. Like, I'll just wait for a little bit of bounce so it goes up a little bit more so my loss isn't quite so bad. Or even the worst thing, and this is what I ultimately did at one point with this one, was, well, I better just average down. Now I'm going to buy more at this low price. That way, when it goes up a little bit, I can get out at that point and it won't hurt so bad, or I won't have such a large loss because I'll have made a little bit more on what I just put in at this lower price. And then what that just spirals into is averaging down again and again and again. And next thing you know, you have such a large position, you may not even be able to sell out of it efficiently if there's not enough liquidity available in the market. So At the end of the day, the lesson here is you do need to define whether or not you're going into this as a trader or a gambler. And typically, I like to think of myself as going into the market as a trader, but I have been caught up in times where my trade has turned into a gamble. And I cannot say once where that has happened and it has worked out in my favor. So think about what you're doing before you do it. Take your trades smart, get your entries and exits planned out ahead of time. Don't jump into something until you know what's going on with that coin, the news, the why it's moving in the market. And if you are just going to trade off the technicals, then you need to make sure that you have a very tight exit window for your loss. So, taking your loss sooner rather than later, because typically if you're taking a quick scalp trade, if it doesn't work out right away, then 9 times out of 10, it's probably not even going to work out at all. So you need to cut your losses fast and keep them small. So hopefully that helps somebody, or you get a little bit out of that. If you have any questions, leave the comments. I'll try to get back to them best I can. Again, I do have a normal, regular job that I am trying to juggle between this, but it seems I'm getting a little bit more and more attention on these YouTube videos, even though there's not really much editing. I'm just sitting in here in my office at my second home, and frankly, this is all just my girlfriend's painting supplies, which she's a beautiful artist. Maybe one day she'll pop in and I can show you some of that stuff. But thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Make sure that you get your mind right. Trade hard and heavy. Trade smart. Have a good day.